The only thing hotter than the subcompact SUV these days is the oppressive weather that we've been facing the last few days here, especially in the north of India. But subcompact SUVs, I mean, how hot can it get? Well, I don't think we've even scraped that surface, because think about it, 2013, subcompact SUVs were just 13% of the overall SUV space, and SUVs in general only occupied 14% of the overall car market. In 2018, that has changed dramatically. SUVs in general have become 21% of the market, and subcompacts within that, 47% of all SUVs sold. So you can imagine how important this space is, and which is why when the Mahindra XUV300 drove in just a few months ago, it created all kinds of excitement, and of course we had to pit it against its rivals. Quick recap on what happened in that contest.
We tested the XUV300 against the segment stalwarts, the Maruti Suzuki Vitara Brezza, the Ford EcoSport and the Tata Nexon. And we found that each car had its USP for sure, be it proportion and space on the Brezza, sporty character and build quality on the EcoSport, and the Nexon scored big on comfort and safety. The XUV300 brought segment firsts and excellent ride and handling to the party.
The fact that it can actually counter the strong USPs of all these cars and not just come out a little bit ahead, it manages to, of course, very keenly take this entire shootout. So a very credible winner, the XUV300, and which is why I have it with me again today. What's changed between then and now, besides the length of my hair, is the fact that we have yet another player now driving in. You of course know where I'm going with this. Ta-da! The Hyundai Venue. Now, we've talked about this car in great detail, you've seen our review, and even before the car was launched, there was so much talk about how it moves benchmarks. It brings a whole lot of technology and modernity to this, what used to be a very humble subcompact SUV segment. And so now it looks like you've got a whole lot of arsenal that Hyundai has brought in to really take on what's become a hot, competitive segment. And so, of course, since this car won our last shootout and is the reigning champion, if you will, the contender has to take it on.
Slim lights, cascade grille, lenticular LED taillights, sculpted metal, SUV proportions, a well laid out cabin, good materials and loaded with tech. And oh yeah, like the XUV300, it also has some two-tone roof options. The XUV300 has the upmarket looks and build quality too, a wider stance, a light-toned, well-finished, feature-rich cabin, and while there is a touchscreen, it does not include telematics or an embedded SIM. The Venue has BlueLink, which gives you a concierge service, remote control of some of the car functions and security through an app, emergency response services and plenty more. The XUV is well loaded, but the Venue more so, and at way more attractive prices. The XUV300 and the Hyundai Venue get petrol and diesel options, though the Mahindra does not have an auto variant as yet. The Venue gets the DCT on the 1 litre petrol, and that's the other thing. There are 2 petrol options and 1 diesel on the Venue too.
Now, Hyundai has announced that it's going to continue with diesel even after the 1st April 2020 BS6 deadline comes our way. which means that it could end up being a huge USP, especially if Maruti does phase out its diesel on the Vitara Brezza. Having said that, then perhaps it might start to hurt Hyundai not to have an automatic option, AMT or otherwise, on the Venue, because well, that's where the Nexon has it, the Vitara Brezza has it in case diesel continues, and then the XUV is supposed to get AMT on both petrol and diesel too.
We already told you in our review how the Venue has great steering, good ride quality and decent handling. The 1-litre GDI turbo petrol is a welcome addition, and the diesel is also fun.
A more sure, a more planted and a more precise feel straight away on the XUV. I mean, when you come in on a corner hard, or even if you're just maneuvering through city traffic, the car just feels so planted and very assured. That's certainly not something that you're used to in the subcompact SUV space, because of course these cars are small, they are below 4 meters, they're also lighter than regular SUVs usually are, and that's the thing using the Tivoli platform has done for the XUV. It's given it a big car feel, both in terms of its ride quality and more so in terms of handling. Alright, so if performance is your thing, then it's undoubtedly still got to be the XUV300, and otherwise, on all other counts, yes, the Venue becomes the dominant product. It just does so much more in terms of what it offers, and I think most crucial is that it does that along with giving you a lot of value because of the incredible prices. And that is why, speaking of prices and seeing how much Hyundai is banking on this car, the expectation is that this car will become a bestseller, which means it starts to threaten the market leader. Yes, we have to bring in the Vitara Brezza, because even though it didn't win our last shootout, it still remains the crowd favorite, the darling of the segment. And so you can't really talk about subcompact SUVs in our country without talking about the quintessential Vitara Brezza. Now, I say quintessential because of all of them, it remains the most typical SUV in terms of styling. What's interesting is that the Venue brings in a more modern look to taking the segment in a sense towards being a little future looking. And of course, the XUV300 looks the widest and biggest because it's based on a bigger platform, unlike these two cars. And so they're all distinct in their styling. They all offer their own USPs. You've got aggression, you've got modernity, and you've got classic SUV proportions and style with the Vitara Brezza.
The Vitara Brezza gets the touchscreen and connectivity too, but no telematics either. Ride is certainly not as supple as the other two, but its comfort is enhanced by its ride height and sense of space.
The airiest, roomiest cabin feel, and also this really commanding seating position which sits nice and tall on the road, gives you, of the three cars, the most SUV-like driving experience on the Vitara Brezza. There's no doubt about it. That is another one of its USPs besides its exterior proportion that makes it more obviously SUV. Where it loses out, of course, is the fact that it only has the diesel engine, no petrol, and even on the automatic, which came much later, it's only the AMT and nothing as sophisticated as the Venue's DCT.
With the least options, the Vitara Brezza is looking weak even on paper now, isn't it? Well, that'll also change soon enough.
Now, we have told you on Car and Bike First that it will be with the BS6 lineup that Maruti finally brings us the petrol version of the Vitara Brezza, and Maruti Suzuki might be well placed now to consider the 1-litre booster jet engine instead of going with the tried and tested 1.2 especially given all the interest, all the bookings, and all the excitement around Hyundai's 1-litre turbo GDI.
Yes, that 1-litre GDI has already cornered over 40% of the nearly 25,000 bookings that the Venue already has. The overwhelming majority of those are for the DCT, meaning the experience benchmark on automatic will once again rise from the AMT. Yes, the Ford EcoSport used to have a DCT too, but given the Venue's reach and likely higher sales, it will popularize that benchmark once again, and more effectively so. A look at the prices of all three reveals how the XUV300 is positioned as the larger, more sophisticated offering, and no doubt the Venue will hurt it a lot. The Vitara Brezza is now looking like less value, and the lack of petrol sticks out like a sore thumb. Hyundai did surprise many with such aggressive pricing, and I do expect an upward revision in a few months.
I started with stats, and so I'm going to throw some more statistics your way. The projection is that subcompact SUVs by the end of 2020 will account for 51% of the SUV segment. And that tells you that it's going to remain a hot space. You're going to have more competition coming in here. You already have the Nexon and the EcoSport. Let's not forget about them. And then there's the next generation EcoSport that should be coming to us fairly soon as well. So where am I going with this? The expectation is that by the time BS6 comes around, you will have a petrol version of this car. Maybe the diesel will bow out of the market, but it will remain a very strong player. And so you can't rule out the Vitara Brezza, and which is why Maruti certainly needs to bring in some much needed additions to it, especially in the connected space. That's something that the Hyundai Venue continues to hold as its massive trump card, at least until, let's say, the Kia model arrives, or some of the others decide to upgrade and also introduce eSIMs. On the Mahindra, you have a lot of credibility for the company coming in because it's the first product that's been universally accepted as perhaps being the best yet from the brand. And so when it comes to the final verdict, I know that most comparisons tend to go with the new car, and we've not always done that, have we? In this case though, I'll go back to what I said just a short while ago in this very report. If performance is your thing, you really like sporty driving, the Mahindra XUV300 is certainly miles ahead of the other two. Great ride, great handling, very sporty dynamic. The only thing that's missing, big thing, no automatic. And when it does come, it's only going to be an AMT. And that's why the Venue, with all its massive USPs, the connectivity, that's the Blue Link, the telematics, and of course, the DCT, the new petrol engine, and the fact that you still continue to have a credible, fun, very strong diesel model, makes it the most obvious winner, at least until Hyundai decides to try and tweak the prices.